Interim manager Ruud van Nistelrooy will be targeting a second win in as many matches when Manchester United welcome Chelsea to Old Trafford in the Premier League on Sunday afternoon. United made a flying start to the Dutchman's stint as caretaker manager on Wednesday night, beating Leicester City 5-2 in the fourth round of the Carabao Cup. The focus for Van Nistelrooy now switches back to the bread and butter of the league and attempting to transform United's fortunes. They head into this weekend's action sat 14th in the table. United have won just one of their last 5 league matches and are desperately in need of 3 points to start climbing the ladder. Chelsea, however, will pose a stern test, having won 4 of their last 6 league matches. Ahead of the visit of the Londoners, Van Nistelrooy is poised to pick from the same group of players who were involved against Leicester in midweek. With that said, here is all the very latest on the United injury front. United issued an update on Euro last month, confirming he had started training outside at Carrington. He has been unavailable since fracturing his metatarsal in the opening game of United's pre-season tour of the United States in July. United anticipated he would be sidelined for around 3 months after undergoing surgery at the start of August. He was walking without crutches as soon as early September and has been working hard in the gym at Carrington since. He will not be rushed, and his competitive debut for the club is not imminent. Possible return date: November. Maguire has been absent since being forced off against Aston Villa prior to the international break. He limped off the field, requiring support from members of the United medical team, and was replaced by Matthijs de Ligt just before half-time. Maguire posted on social media that he would be out for a few weeks, something former United boss Erik Ten Hag confirmed a few days later. He has missed the last 4 matches. Shaw has now gone 8 full months without playing for United. After originally being tipped to return after the first international break of the season in September, and then after the second last month, his absence is still ongoing. Speaking after the defeat to West Ham United last weekend, Ten Hag confirmed Shaw had suffered a setback and that his recovery is not going in the direction United would have hoped for. He said the process is not going as we expected. That's the truth. The setback, if you want to call it like this, we want also to do it very careful. When he is now dropping again, we want to be very careful. We know his past. We have to do this right, because we want him to be available, because he will have a big impact on our performances and also on our levels. We can't have him playing for some games and then drop out again. So, we will do it very carefully. Malacia has been training with the first team in recent weeks, offering encouragement that his return might not be all that far away. He last played for United on the final day of the 2022-23 Premier League season. In August, Ten Hag said the defender was moving in the right direction, suggesting he could be back at some point in October. He is not that far off, but he is now in a progress situation. At a relatively short notice, he can again return into team training and then into team performance in games. I think it would be possible to be available again in 2 months. October, of course, has now been and gone, and it remains to be seen when the left-back will be available for selection. Possible return date: unknown. Mainu suffered a muscle injury in the closing stages of United's 0-0 draw with Villa and has missed the last 4 matches. Ten Hag, speaking at his pre-Brentford press conference a fortnight ago, said he expected the academy graduate to be unavailable for a couple of weeks. It remains to be seen if he will be available for the visit of Chelsea. Possible return date: November 3rd, Chelsea. Eriksen was absent from the matchday squad against Leicester, watching the game from the director's box. He is understood have pulled out of the squad through injury, but details of it have so far been kept under wraps. Possible return date: unknown Mount has missed the last 6 matches after being forced off with a head injury that required stitches against Tottenham Hotspur on September 29th. Ten Hag, speaking ahead of last week's 1-1 draw with Fenerbahce, said, "I think a bit longer to wait for Mount. That's what we expected. I think he will be back soon." Possible return date: unknown. Explaining why Jack Fletcher had been included in the squad for the win over Brentford almost a fortnight ago, Ten Hag revealed Collier was another midfielder who had been added to the injury list. However, he stopped short of offering any detail on the nature or extent of his injury. The Manchester Evening News now understands he will be unavailable for roughly a month. Possible return date, December. Manchester United-bound RUBEN Amorim is betraying Sporting CP, according to the club's former vice president. The Red Devils are in advanced talks with Amorim after dismissing Erik Ten Hag on Monday and are hoping to unveil the 39-year-old before the end of the week after agreeing to pay his £8.3 million release clause. News of Amorim's impending departure hasn't gone down well in certain sporting circles, with star players Victor Gyökeres and Morten Hjulmand reportedly confronting the coach about it during a training session on Wednesday. Accusations of hypocrisy and betrayal have been levelled, particularly after several sporting stars were allegedly convinced to stay at the club over the summer after being assured Amorim would be staying too. Ex-Sporting chief Jose Diaz Ferreira went a step further, claiming Amorim was stabbing the club in the back. I have great admiration for RUBEN Amorim, for everything he did for Sporting, but his departure leaves me disappointed, he told Portuguese outlet SIC Noticias. As a Sporting fan, I can truly say that it is a betrayal, because betrayal is not just stabbing someone in the back. Betrayal is not fulfilling promises, commitments or principles. The promise Ferreira is referring to is one Amorim reportedly made to the club in the summer about staying to fight for a second successive Primera Liga title, following interest from the likes of Liverpool and West Ham. Last season, Sporting clinched just their fourth domestic crown since 1982, and their second under Amorim. For decades, Sporting have struggled to step out of the humongous shadow cast by Portuguese powerhouses Porto and Benfica. Although they've won a handful of cups and league titles down the years, they've never managed to establish an era of dominance, as demonstrated by the fact that they haven't won back-to-back Primera Liga championships since the early 1950s. After starting the current campaign at a canter with 9 wins from 9 in the league, hopes are high that the Lisbon club can end their 70-year wait for successive titles. But it increasingly looks as if they'll have to do it without Amorim at the helm. Eduardo Barroso, former president of the Sporting General Assembly, said Amorim's departure is like an earthquake and that everyone at the club is devastated by his decision to leave. I agree with the disappointment and frustration. I also feel sad. 100% of Sporting fans are devastated, he said. RUBEN Amorim was simply the best coach I have ever seen, and I've been a member of the club for 75 years. Barroso also warned that Amorim's exit could spark a crippling exodus. His departure from Sporting is like a huge earthquake, an earthquake. Earthquakes have consequences. The aftermath I fear most is that players could leave in January, he said. Several Sporting players have been on United's transfer watch list for months, and with Amorim on board, they'll have every chance to lure them to Old Trafford. But his sudden exit may end up burning a few bridges, potentially jeopardising United's transfer hopes. Diogo Dalot is a fan of probable new Manchester United manager RUBEN Amorim, but has explained that the players remain in the dark over a possible appointment. With the 39-year-old's arrival set to come in November rather immediately, as had been initially hoped, United are in limbo. Ruud van Nistelrooy is in caretaker charge, doing a fine job so far too, as he oversaw their 5-2 Carabao Cup fourth-round win over Leicester City on Wednesday night. Dalot had a big role to play as he completed the full game in a strong X1 picked, providing the second goal of the night to Alejandro Garnacho with a pinpoint low cross from the right side. Dalot was soon involved as Leicester pegged one back before half-time to cut the deficit back to 2 goals after a ding-dong opening 45 minutes. The ball ricocheted off Dalot and into the path of Conor Coady, who scored the 5 goals in total, 2 from Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, were as many as United had managed in the previous 5 domestic games combined. Their bounce under Van Nistelrooy, which was also demonstrated with the resounding atmosphere for the club legend, will be put to the test against Chelsea on Sunday afternoon. The Blues fell to a limp 2-0 defeat away to Newcastle in the League Cup, while United themselves were winning. A large portion of the team likely to feature at Old Trafford were rested though. Van Nistelrooy now appears all but certain to be in charge for the match after a delay in appointing a permanent replacement for Erik Ten Hag this week. That is still expected to be Amorim, and Dalot had some good words to say about Sporting CP's head coach. Obviously, he's a good manager, compatriot Dalot said, speaking after the win over Leicester. However, United's players are in the dark over what comes next. We don't know if he's coming. We see the rumours, like everybody see it. But we will just focus on what we have here, doing our job and what the future brings. We'll be ready. Dalot is one of few players signed by United in recent years who look to have improved under Ten Hag. He's also someone suited, on paper, to the back three system used almost compulsively by AMORIM. The wait is now to see if they will be united together at United in the coming days. Interim manager RUBEN van Nistelrooy has said Manchester United's players were given some space to gather their thoughts following Erik Ten Hag's exit ahead of tonight's Carabao Cup clash with Leicester City at Old Trafford. Ten Hag was axed by United on Monday morning, less than 24 hours after watching his side lose 2-1 to West Ham United in controversial fashion at the London Stadium. Van Nistelrooy was placed in temporary charge and is tasked with trying to improve the mood at Old Trafford after a run of just one win in 8 matches. Van Nistelrooy, who is a huge fan favourite, returned to the club in the summer as part of the decision to shake up Ten Hag's coaching team. He is now focused on attempting to lead his team to the quarter-finals of the Carabao Cup. Speaking to MUTV pre-match, Van Nistelrooy said, "We had to deal with a day like yesterday and give the players some space to get their heads around things and their emotions. Then they needed to switch their mindsets to performing, and that is what we did today. We wanted to focus on seeing an energetic and attack-minded performance, having a lot of the ball, and attempting to give the crowd a great night." It has been a couple of days of mixed feelings, Van Nistelrooy added. "When you see a colleague go, it is a big disappointment. Erik brought me in, and in the first conversation we had, what struck me most was the passion he had for Man United, and I experienced that with him. He was really fighting for this club, for the supporters, and that was what brought us together." RUBEN van Nistelrooy's brief time as interim manager became a chapter in Manchester United's story, a reminder of the club's resilience, its ability to endure hardships, and its unwavering spirit. He led the team with dignity, humility, and an understanding of what it meant to wear the United badge. Whether he would stay on or eventually hand over the reins to a new manager, his impact was undeniable. As he looked out over the pitch after that first victory, Van Nistelrooy couldn't help but feel a deep connection to the club and its supporters. His journey from revered striker to interim manager was unexpected, but it was a role he embraced wholeheartedly. In the end, he wasn't just leading a team, he was carrying forward a legacy, bridging the past with the present and laying the groundwork for a brighter future.